Hello students, today we are discussing a very important concept called successful aging. All of us know that the journey of human life is very elaborative and many things happen from the womb to the tomb. During the childhood, the child is very active, very curious and explores a lot for the proper effective development of the personality. During the adulthood, they try to adjust to the life situations, try to excel in their career and also professionally and personally they would like to be very successful in their life. But when it comes to the old age, everyone starts thinking in a negative perspective. But is it like the old age is really a dreadful thing? Can we not make the old age a very successful aging? And how an old aged individual can really make himself happy and lead a very normal and successful life even in the last stage of the life. So, today's module covers about how we can define the concept of successful aging, what are the attributes of the people associated with the successful aging and what factors contribute to the successful aging. All these things will be discussed in the context of empirical evidence that has been produced by number of researchers who has done a lot of research on how people are aging, why some people are trying to define their aging in successful terms and what are the factors that are leading them to lead a very successful happy old age. So, coming to this introduction part of this module, we all know that there is no single definition of the concept of success, whether you are at an childhood level or whether you are an adolescent or in the old age. So, when there is no proper single definition of successful aging, the definition depends upon the subjective experience of the people. Let us see how this has been defined by various researchers who have interacted with the aged people, that is the senior citizens. Havikhurst in 1961 defined successful aging as that period wherein the individuals feel they are adding life to their years, but not just the years to the life. And when they feel that they are adding life to the years, they get a considerable satisfaction from the life. Similarly, another researcher, Riff, he defined successful aging as positive or ideal functioning, referring to the developmental work that happens throughout their life. Fisher in 1992 interviewed 19 senior citizens who are in the age group of 60 to 85 years and they found that successful aging was defined by them in terms of strategies for coping that they use in dealing with the life crisis. In 1995, Gibson stated that successful aging refers to reaching one's maximum potential and arriving at a level of physical, social and psychological well-being in old age, which is very pleasurable to oneself and also to the others. In the Encyclopedia of Aging, Parmod mentioned a comprehensive definition of successful aging. According to him, successful aging includes survival, that is the longevity, health, that is a good health which indicates lack of disability and life satisfaction, which was explained in terms of their happiness. When we say like concept of successful aging, it does not mean that we are ignoring the physical deterioration or the physical changes that occur in the old age. But even in the midst of illness and disabilities, many senior adults, that is the old aged people who are aging successfully, they mention some of their feelings in terms of having a zest for life and they are engaged in personal relationships, not isolating themselves from the others, they are concerned for the welfare of the others. They also maintain a very optimistic and positive view of life irrespective of the physical illnesses that they suffer and also believe that their later years are a time to leave a legacy for others which is grounded in positive affirmations. People who are in the successful aging or people who feel that they are aging successfully, they choose a positive approach to life which will bring a positive approach to them, to their age, and as a result they are able to maintain their creativity, they involve and create interest in their own activities throughout the lifespan. So, their success, their creativity, their abilities, their talents are not confined to the previous years of their life, but they try to sustain and maintain even in the old age. Illness and disability for the successfully aging person may occur at a very later point of the life, that is at a later juncture in life, and successfully aging individuals can anticipate a longer and more productive lifespan. This is what the research on successful aging is indicating. Now, let us see, everyone aspires to have a successful aging, but what factors contribute to it? What are the correlates of the successful aging? The researchers Wayland and Mukamal believe that we can identify the predictors of longer and healthier lives before the age of 50 by using some of the indicators. So, these indicators can be what is the social class of the parents, family cohesion, that is the togetherness of the family, major depression if at all experienced by the individual, ancestral longevity which speaks about the genes, childhood temperament and physical health at the age of 50. From the above indicators, we can predict whether an old aged person can lead a happy life, a successful life, or may experience any kind of mental illness or dissatisfaction with the life. There are 7 other variables which indicated personal control over physical and emotional health, which also may be related to longer and healthier lives. What are those 7 variables? All these things generally relate to the good habits which we try to maintain right from the childhood till the middle age. These variables could be absence of alcohol abuse and smoking, presence of marital or relationship stability, regular exercise, a normal body mass index, positive coping mechanisms which we try to use in dealing with the life situations, and involvement in continuing education. Another researcher has pointed out, to understand the successful aging behaviorally, there are other indicators which can be considered. For example, although elderly people taking 3 to 8 medications a day are seen as chronically ill by their physicians, still the cohort deemed to be aging successfully and they saw themselves as healthier than their peers. So, what could be the reason? In spite of the medication, in spite of the chronic illness, they rated themselves as they are leading a happier life compared to their peer group. The reason could be how actively they were associated with the brain, that is engaging in some kind of a physical activity or the other, maintaining the social support with the friends, with the family members, and also trying to learn continuously something or the other which made them feel more healthier physically and psychologically than their peer group. Although elderly people who are taking 3 to 8 medications a day were seen as chronically ill by their physicians, but the cohort deemed to be aging successfully and they saw themselves as healthier than their peer group. The reason could be they might be actively involved with the activities that are related to the brain, trying to use their creativity, take the support of the family members and continuously learn in order to engage themselves. These could be the reasons why they have rated their aging as more successful than their peer group. The second important aspect is, those who are aging successfully probably have the ability to plan ahead, intellectually very curious and try to be on par with the youngsters using the technology and be in touch with their creative ideas. The third important aspect with regard to the successful aging adults, even if they are above 95 years, they see the life as being more meaningful at this age and they are able to use humor in their day-to-day life. Aging successfully also includes remaining physically active and engaging in the continuing activities like walking, which they have started probably during their adulthood, and these were used at an early age to remain healthy. They were also continuing even in the old age to sustain their healthiness. Older adults who age successfully are more serene and spiritual in their outlook on life than those who age less well. From this, we can conclude that successful aging includes the concern for continued friendships, positive interpersonal relationships, satisfaction with their spouses, children and family life, and taking the social responsibility in the form of volunteer work and civic involvement, which keeps them physically fit and mentally fit and socially engaged in the community. The research has indicated number of other variables which might lead to the successful aging. One such variable is the ability to cope with stress and then enjoying the physical and emotional well-being. This has been studied in the women who are in the age group of 65 to 87 years, and the researchers like Bernas and Valaik found that women with insecure attachments to their adult children had very poor coping skills and lower levels of psychological well-being than women who had positive attachments with their family, kids and the spouses. Wayland and Mukmal also reported two important predictors for successful aging, and these predictors are called psychosocial predictors, as they involve high level of education which probably reflects traits of self-care and planfulness, and as well as social class and having an extended family network. These psychosocial correlates also were found to be positively related to the successful aging. Valiant in his research in 2002 suggested that some of the variables were highly contributing to the successful aging. So, these variables are seeking and maintaining relationships and understanding that relationships will help us to heal and grow, require gratitude, forgiveness and intimacy. If these attitudes are developed in the people, they can have a better life even in the old age. The second variable is having interest and concern about others and being able to give of oneself. That is the reason why we see many people old aged who are trying to interact in the community by taking up some voluntary roles, whether it is related to the religious groups, spiritual groups or in the civic groups. The third important element is a sense of humor and the ability to laugh and play well into the later life, that is very much essential. Making new friends as we lose older ones has a more positive impact on aging than the retirement benefits. Researchers also found that the desire to learn and be open to new ideas and points of view always kept them engaged cognitively and also made them feel that they are physically fit. The sixth variable is understanding and accepting limitations and accepting the help of others. There is nothing wrong or feeling inferior in taking the help of others in certain situations. That is what has happened during the COVID-19. Many oldest people have to depend on the others even for the day-to-day situations or to fulfill their basic needs. Understanding the past and its effect on our lives while living in the present is as important as any other factor that is related to the successful aging. Then focusing on the positives and the good people in our lives rather than recollecting the negative things that may happen to us. All these variables have contributed for a better, happy life in the old age than any other factors. Another important factor that has been found by the researchers with regard to this successful aging is community levels of health and individual health. A researcher by name Lawton and Nahemo in 1977 long back itself believed that positive community environments are very much important to the older adults to have emotional, physical or cognitive problems. So, the need for healthy and vital communities is very relevant for older adults who have health problems which limit their mobility. So, if there is a positive community environment, probably they can handle their problems, but if the environment is very destructive or not in favor to the old aged, that might be limiting their opportunities to live and also to have an engaged community life. Robert and Lee suggested from their research 3 indicators of healthy communities which are directly related to the individual health. So, these indicators include a positive physical environment, that is, people, especially the oldest people, who are living in such a kind of environment where it is free from noise and traffic and also possess adequate lighting, is very much essential to have a proper physical and mental health. The second indicator is a positive social environment, which includes absence of crime, ability to find safe environments to walk in, it could be walkers park or any other kind of a facility, and easy access to shopping. The third indicator is a rich service environment. That means, where the oldest people can have in a very simple way the safe access to rapid and inexpensive transportation and the availability of centers, that is the senior citizen clubs, where they can spend some time, and easy access to meal sites. If they cannot eat at home for various reasons, or if they are living alone, is there any possibility to have the eating centers for the oldest people which are aged friendly? Another research that thrusted impact on psychological well-being of the oldest people is the impact of natural disasters on the elderly people. They found that the natural disasters may lead to pre-disaster signs of depression. In fact, Taylor and Hoyt, they noted elderly adults reported high levels of social support and had lower levels of depression before and after a natural disaster. So, whether it is a cyclone or any accident or pandemic, if they have the support, naturally the depression levels, the suicidal tendencies will be very low compared to those group who do not provide or who do not possess such kind of the opportunities. The researchers also reported older people with little or no social support, perhaps due to the death of a spouse or loss of friends, may have a more difficult time dealing with the changes in their life, and as a result they become more vulnerable to the depression and suicidal tendencies. Another study was conducted on when life stressors are inevitable in anyone's life, how these old aged adults are able to cope with these life stressors. The coping mechanisms that they are using will also lead to or will also predict whether they are leading a happier life or a vulnerable life. Solomon in 1996 reported that specific personality characteristics are highly related to successful coping in older adults. The characteristics that have resulted in the positive relationship between successful coping and aging are flexibility in thinking, adaptability to the situations, possessing a sense of humor, as well as financial, social and organizational skills. When all these characteristics are present, the coping was very effective and the aging process was very smooth. Solomon also indicated that ability to find meaning in crisis situations instead of just able to manage the critical situation is very important aspect of coping. From many negative situations or adverse situations, we try to understand the meaning of the life. When this is happening, there is a more successfulness in the way we are dealing with the stressors. Butler et al. In 1991 suggested that coping is enhanced in older adults if they are able to shift their priorities to accommodate the new changes, while Solomon believed that a person's sense of mastery is very much important in dealing with the stressors, especially those which are related to the aging. Sense of mastering the situations is very important aspect for the successful aging. When we are mentioning about the personality, how it is related to the coping and eventually to the aging, Solomon identified two personality factors which are positively related to the coping in older adults. One such factor is how a person is able to interpret the success in controlling past hardships, which is giving the evidence of one's competence in mastering the current hardships. That is, in the past, if the aged individual has successfully dealt with the situations and he was successful in combating the life crisis, that will help them even in the old age to deal with the life stresses in an effective way. The second factor is ability to shift priorities from areas where a measure of control has been lost to areas where control may still be maintained. Naturally, in the old age, we cannot have control over everything, but if we can concentrate more on those areas where we can have control, where we can master the tasks, where we can enjoy, if those aspects are increased rather than worrying about those things over which we do not have the control, that may lead to a better life. Rowe and Kahn believed successful aging includes three components. One is good health. Definitely the physical health and mental health are highly correlated. In the absence of good health, you cannot expect a better mental health. So, when we speak about good health, that refers to a low risk of disease and disability, good habits like doing regular exercise, taking a healthy diet and regular checkups. Then the second component is higher mental and physical functioning, which leads to healthy aging, because people are intellectually active and stimulated when they are using their cognitive processes. The third component is an active engagement with life and a strong system of social supports. Many studies indicated in the absence of social support, naturally isolation will become a risk factor for poor health. Similarly, social support, that is in terms of emotional, physical and personal contact, which will provide a direct positive effects on health, and in the absence of social support, the consequences would be adverse. So, social support can buffer or reduce some health related effects of aging, and social support will also help one to protect against the stresses of life. Once we have understood the concept of successful aging, what are the various factors that are attributed to the successful aging, there are certain other aspects which also related to the successful aging. One such factor is optimism. How optimism leads to the successful aging? When we say optimism, this is referring to a person's positive view of life and how that will be impacting a person's physical and emotional health. When we say like a person is aging well, in spite of having a disease and disability, current studies have indicated self-perception about aging can also be an important factor than the traditional success markers. So, how we are perceiving our own life, our own health also helps us to define whether we are aging successfully or not. A study was conducted on a number of participants by a researcher called Jesty, and she noted what is interesting is that people who think they are aging well are not necessarily the healthy individuals, but why they rated themselves as healthy individuals is because of their optimism and effective coping styles rather than the traditional measures of health and wellness. So, these findings indicated that physical health is not the best indicator of successful aging, but it is the attitude of the individual towards the life, towards oneself that has been leading to the successful aging. Jesty also found that participants of this particular study who spent time each day on hobbies like reading and writing, socializing with other members of the community and consistently rated themselves as high on the successful aging. Participants who had a paid job outside the home also gave higher scores on the successful aging. But it is observed volunteer activities did not create the same kind of an influence on the participants' self-reports. So, more than the volunteering activities, it was the finance and then their hobbies which have contributed a lot to make themselves happier. Factors which were not correlated with high self-report ratings were age, gender, education, marital status and income. Jesty concluded, for most people, worries about their future aging involved fear of physical infirmity, disease or disability. However, this study is encouraging because the study reveals that the best predictors of successful aging are well within an individual's control, not outside the individual, that is not confined to the external factors. Once we have understood optimism, another important aspect which is highly correlated to successful aging is resilience. Walsh defined resilience as the ability to withstand and rebound from disruptive life challenges. Resilience involves very important key processes which encourage the ability to struggle well, overcome the obstacles and go on to live and love fully. Gordon defined resilience as the ability to thrive, mature and increase competence in the face of adverse circumstances. Glick defined resilience as the ability to bounce back from adversity and to overcome the negative influences that often block achievement. So, the resilience research focused on the traits, coping skills and supports which help people survive, even thrive in a challenging environment. Apart from the resilience, how a person copes with stress also improves successful aging. We all know that coping is an effort to reduce the impact of a difficult or stressful situation, and this transaction process involves both cognition and behavior. There are three primary styles of coping with stress: task oriented, emotion oriented and avoidance oriented coping. Task oriented coping helps us to solve the problem naturally, that reduces the intensity of the stress. Emotion oriented coping tries to limit the emotional impact of stress rather than resolving the stressful situation. Avoidance oriented coping uses the distraction and diversion which are not related to the stressful situation. So, naturally, temporarily this mechanism will help us to divert our attention from the stress. This research in coping naturally suggests that a task oriented approach will benefit the people more under great stress than the other coping strategies. That is, they are associated with resolution of the problem and they can reduce the intensity of the stress compared to the other coping strategies. However, sometimes we also use emotion and avoidance oriented coping strategies, but only thing is it will not give a permanent solution to a stressor. Similarly, if people are using more of positive coping skills, naturally we can call them as more mature, they have a purpose, future oriented, reality based and they can combat stressful and anxiety provoking situations. Whereas, those people who use negative coping skills, we can consider them as very rigid, always driven by the past, reality distortion is more in them and generally lack the adaptive process. So, whether a person can successfully age or not depends upon whether they are using positive coping skills or negative coping skills. So, students, in this module we try to understand the concept of successful aging, the attributes of successful aging and the empirical evidence related to the attributes of successful aging. Apart from that, we have also seen how optimism, coping with emotions and resilience will also facilitate a better successful aging.